Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk. I'm Corey and that is the 2023 Nissan Z, the only real competitor to the new Toyota Supra. And in this video, I'm going to take you on a quick tour of this one, tell you how my opinion has changed since taking delivery of it, and tell you whether or not I'd buy this or that Toyota Supra. Stay tuned. Okay, so first things first, I do want to say a huge thank you to Nissan for delivering this to us for a week's worth of testing. But since I've got the hood propped up with the prop rod, let's start in the most obvious place to compare it to that new Supra, that is under the hood. So Supra comes in two power plant options, whereas the Z, yes, just the Z, no number designation anymore on Nissan's affordable sports car, because they do still have that GTR in the lineup. But the only powertrain you get in this is the 3-liter twin-turbo V6, making 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, which is a very interesting number. We'll get more into that while we're driving it. For comparison's sake, the 3-liter version of the Toyota Supra makes 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. So a little less on the horsepower side, a little more on the torque side, and you can kind of feel that. This one is equipped with a 6-speed manual, but you can also opt for a 9-speed automatic. The Supra famously only came with an 8-speed automatic when it first came out, but now offers a 6-speed. Toyota claims that was always in the works and had nothing to do with the arrival of this car, but skeptics can think whatever they want, and I tend to think competition is a really good thing because it does drive automakers to do things that they may not have done otherwise. This one is obviously rear-wheel drive, as it should be, and has a carbon fiber composite drive shaft to help reduce weight. It also has a SynchroRev Match on that EXEDY, or on that 6-speed manual with an EXEDY high-performance clutch. So very fun, very peppy powertrain, and we'll get more into how it drives here in just a little bit. Closing the hood of the Nissan Z, we can take in its true beauty. And much like the Supra, this comes with a little bit of controversial styling elements. So this is very much an evolution of the 350 and the 370Zs that preceded it. In fact, many people know Nissan is not in the best financial situation right now, so what they are doing are heavily modifying very old platforms and bringing them up to modern spec. They did it with the Frontier, they've done it with the Pathfinder, now they are doing it here with the Nissan Z, which I really like this translation. A lot of people have cited this right here, the big gaping mouth. And I will say, seeing this in your rearview mirror definitely looks a little cartoonish at times. And I will say this looks much better in person than the image I am seeing on my camera right now. Unless you have a true HDR camera and display, you're really not going to get the full effect of seeing this in person. So there are dual elements here in this big open space in the grille. You can see the upper portion has kind of a charcoal gray oblong rectangle design, and the lower part has more of a blacked out design, giving it a dual element that helps break up the fact that it is a big gaping rectangle in the front of the Nissan Z. Otherwise, these headlights are meant to recall old classic Zs of the 60s and 70s. And I'd say it's a very nice homage to that. This one is in a pearl white paint, which I think is my favorite. You know, we tested the proto spec, one of 240 to be ever made or produced, and it was in that bright yellow that matches my suitcase, which we'll show you in the trunk here in just a little bit. But I really like this pearl white. I think this spec is how I would order mine, and we'll get more into that when we go inside. But I do want to call out, we do have LED headlights, LED running lights, and LED turn signals. So you can see the LED running lights kind of form this elliptical look around the headlight unit itself. Very cool, very interesting. Now, as we come around to the profile, before we dig into some more of the specs, I do want to say there is a big distinction between the Z and the Supra in which it compares when it comes to acceleration. So this one being the 6-speed manual Performance Edition goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. The Supra can do it in 3.9. And I would say a big contributing factor to that is right here. The wheels and tires that Nissan chose for the Z. So these are Bridgestone Potenza tires, and they are staggered. So we have two 55/40 19s up front, and moving back here to the back, to 75/35 19s in the back. They're wrapped around these forged wheels for reduction in weight. And you can see we do have red painted brake calipers in the front and in the rear. They are performance brakes, and they are not Brimbos like many manufacturers are doing. They are Akebono, 4-piston front with 14-inch rotors and 2-piston rear with 13.8-inch rotors. And like I said, the raised forged wheels wrapped around them. So very interesting on the tires right here. I will say they are very easy to break loose. Not speaking from personal experience, you know, I will neither confirm nor deny, but it is possible this car has broken loose in second gear power sliding around a corner. Just gonna throw that out there. But taking a look at the profile of this car, this is hands down its best angle. My goodness, did Nissan nail the profile of this vehicle. From that very long hood to that sloping roofline to that practically next to nothing rear overhang behind the rear wheels, the profile of this vehicle is spot on, and will have you turning back to look at it every time you park it in a parking spot, in a parking lot. This thing is absolutely gorgeous to look at, and the pearl white paint just adds to that. I really like the door handles here. We'll talk more about them when we go to open them up, but just kind of a neat little styling element right there. And then you get the two-tone black against the white here, and you can see they do a little visual trickery here. So not only do we get the satin divider here, but the black from the roof dips down much lower than the window back here in the back, giving it the illusion of having an even shorter deck lid and really adding to the visual drama back here in the back. This right here is one of my favorite angles. The profile, the rear quarter, the rear angle, everything back here just absolutely works for me. This thing is so good to look at from these angles back here. Once you get past that big gaping rectangle in the front, which I guarantee you does look better in person than it does here on camera. Then you get this comically large fuel tank door. It is almost ridiculous how big it is, but I have some idea that it has to do with the curves of these hips over the rear fenders here. And looking in your rearview mirror, you absolutely cannot deny the curves, the hips that this Nissan Z has. It is absolutely a very beautiful thing to see in your rearview mirror. Coming back and looking at the rear end, my biggest complaint about 350 and 370 was the rear end design. Both of them look like formless, shapeless blobs. That didn't make any sense. The taillights didn't line up with the hatch. Just nothing worked for me back here in the back. Whereas here in the Z, no number, just a Z, it works. It takes a lot of inspiration from the 300ZX of my childhood, and I think this is the best it has looked since its ZX days. They do hide the hatch release right here in the Nissan logo for you to pop open and open the rear hatch. It is a 6.2 cubic foot rear hatch opening, and you can see this is our largest suitcase that we own. It fits in here, but you have to be sure and really give it a nice little push when you close it. We can also get our medium and our smallest carry-on size back here in the back. For consideration, I'm sorry, I said it was 6.2, it's actually 6.9 cubic feet. 6.2 is the other vehicle we're testing. The Supra, for comparison's sake, has 10.2 cubic feet. So Supra has a little more trunk storage space, but we'll get into where the Z makes up for it here in just a little bit. You can see the inside of this one is also black, so very interesting contrast here. But yeah, let's close this nice and hard to make sure it closes on my suitcase there. If that were too full, we might have a problem. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize here. My wireless mic died on me today. I don't know what happened. I just did not have it charged. So if the audio quality is a little bit different, my apologies. Next video, we should not have that problem. But I do want to show you the key before we hop in. This is a very typical Nissan key. They've not changed it too much over the years. It reminds me very much of the Nissan Kicks key that we had not that long ago, but with fewer buttons. We have lock and unlock and a panic button. There is a physical key that you can release right here, but you can keep it in your pocket because it is a proximity key. As we come up to the door here, I will show you this little button right here. This is how you lock it and unlock it. And you can pull the door handle here and open up. That little button is on both doors, so if you've got a kiddo in the passenger seat, you can absolutely just walk up and unlock it there. But look at this blue leather and synthetic suede interior. Isn't it amazing? I love it. The contrast with the black inside and the white and black outside. This really is how I would spec mine, almost exactly. Blue is my favorite color, so absolutely, I love the way that this looks. Interesting design choice right here. You can see we actually have an air vent in the door. So to do that, we've got a little plumbing here in the dash. Very interesting look. And then in and amongst the blue leather and suede here, we've got our mirror controls, our lock, and our window lockout, and our power window button right here. They are automatic on both sides. Before I hop in, I want to show you there are manual height adjustments for the seat bottom, but there are power recline and forward and back adjustments for both seats right here. But it is hot out here, so I'm gonna go ahead and hop in and start this thing up because whew, it's not even June yet. And yeah, it's warm outside. Push the button there and we can see the full digital gauge cluster come to life right here. And you can see everything that it displays. It's got quite a bit on it, but I would say it would seem that there's a little bit of wasted space here. For instance, this little section right here is fully customizable, well, to an extent, because you can select through different things, G-force, upshift indicator, and various things like that you would want to know. Your tire pressure in all 4 tires and your boost pressure, which is a little redundant because you get these 3 gauge pods up here, and there's your boost pressure. You also get turbo speed, which is kind of pointless, and your battery voltage. It's interesting to me that none of these are a fuel gauge because this right here is your only fuel reading. And yes, if you look at it, we are 236.6 miles into our test with 51 miles of range left. And yeah, you can do the math on exactly what the fuel economy is, because out of this entire gauge cluster screen, I've yet to find the fuel economy readings, because let's face it, you're not buying this for fuel economy. But you can see over here, we've got all our radio controls as well as the controls for that little additional screen there. Here we've got our adaptive cruise control buttons right here. So very interesting, very nice. You can see back behind, this is your brightness and your odometer reset. Here is all your wiper controls and your headlight and blinker controls over there. Moving over to the center console, I will say this is a 9-inch unit, but what makes this so different from the Toyota Supra is this is actually a Nissan product through and through. Anyone who knows the Toyota Supra knows it is a rebadged BMW, therefore it gets BMW's infotainment system, which isn't too big of a deal, but if you are familiar with Toyota products and all their infotainment systems, and then you hop in Supra, it's kind of odd and discombobulating to get in and it be a completely different interface. So this being Nissan through and through is a familiar experience. If you've been in any other Nissan product, you can see it's rather quick and snappy. You can swipe through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto very easily. This is a wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you can plug up via USB-A or USB-C up here. I've currently got USB-C plugged in, but yes, and then you do get some hard toggles right here, including a camera button that takes you to the settings for your backup camera, and we put it in reverse here. It's a decent camera, it does a good job. It's a little bit more than a compliance camera because we also get trajectory and these little warning block markers here on the screen as well. So very nice there. Little spot to store your phone here. You can see my iPhone 14 Pro Max fits in there just fine. It is not a Qi wireless charger, just so you know. If you want to charge it, you plug it in, but I'm okay with that because historically Qi wireless chargers have not worked too well for me. Here's your engine start stop button. Here is your button for your SynchroRev Match. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Actually, I had to push and hold it, and you can see that little S that pops up to the N for neutral. When the S is there, you are rev matching. And let's get into this 6-speed because it is a rather nice 6-speed. It's not the best I've ever experienced, and one of the biggest problems for it, you can look at the pattern and see where reverse is. This is the exact same pattern that is on my daily driver that I have driven for 11 years now, and mine has a collar as a lockout for reverse. And this one you have to push down on it physically and push it over and back to get it in reverse. But the problem with that is if you aren't pushing it down, you can still pull it over into this kind of dead zone. You can't pull it down for reverse because I'm not physically pushing down on it, and you also can't push it up and find fifth. So if you're really going through the gears fast and you accidentally push it over too far, you're not going to go from fourth to fifth. Very interesting choice here. I've asked several friends without warning them. I'm like, row through the gears and tell me what you think. And they inevitably always do this at least 1 or 2 times going through the gears. I am sure it is something you would get used to, but it's very interesting to me why this is even a possibility. Like I said, my 6-speed that I have driven for 11 years has the exact same pattern and does not have this issue. Just an interesting note. We have heated front seats, or heated seats here. Here's our hatch release, and 1 cup holder, and a hidden cup holder back here with my breakfast in it. Disregard that. It is behind this sliding center console lid that to open it, you push this button, and you have a little bit of storage here, but you have to remember we do have that carbon fiber ceramic, or carbon fiber composite, that's the word, drive shaft running down the middle of this vehicle, so can't go too deep with that. Very interesting here, we have additional storage behind both seats. So you can see that's where I've got all my camera gear right there. I've got some more back here. It is lined with, it looks to be carpet underneath, so if you put something down there, it won't rattle. This is actually where the owner's manual is found, not in the glove box up front here. You can see rather small glove box, not damped. Well, actually it is damped. So there you go. I always pull it straight down, but it is damped, not lined with felt. So if there's anything hard in there, it may rattle. You can see over here, we also have another cup holder with a little bit of storage as well. And then we get the structural rigidity back between us and the cargo compartment back here. So very nice strut tower brace. I don't know if you noticed, there was one between the front struts as well, protecting or strengthening the connection between the front wheels. So here we've got this between the back wheels. And then I've spoken to many Corvette owners, and they say one of the big problems with the C8 for them is that they aren't able to reach back in the cargo area on road trips anymore, because as you know, the C8 Corvette has a mid-engine, no storage back here. So one of the pluses of road tripping a 2-seat hatchback vehicle like this is the fact that you can actually get into the back and dig through some stuff, have your ready access stuff back here behind the seats and at the back of the cargo area. So very interesting there. I will say I am 5'10", and I can find a very good seating position here in this. This does have a manual tilt and telescoping steering wheel, and I already showed you the adjustments for the seat here. I'm the only one in my family that can drive a 6-speed manual, so no worries that this one doesn't have memory seat settings, but just something to know if you have multiple drivers that would want this. No memory seat settings. You can see I've got a nice amount of headroom here. Would work really well if I also had a helmet. You can see there is a little bit of a cutout here versus the center section. So if you wanted to put a helmet on and race this, I would say that that is absolutely a possibility. And I will say too, while we're in here talking about the interior, this feels like a much more roomy interior than the Supra. The Supra felt very claustrophobic, and this is coming from someone who owned a fifth generation Camaro. So yes, this feels like a very roomy cabin. And in fact, Nissan claims 51.4 cubic feet of passenger volume, whereas the Toyota Supra is 50.9. I would say it is very noticeable. The windows in this just feel bigger. The visibility out of this one, even out of the back, feels a whole lot better. I feel like I can see around in this one a whole lot more. There is a small window back here, but it does me no good because this is my eye line looking over my shoulder, and you can see the headrest is in the way there. But generally speaking, I've not had any problems. It is a little bit of a blind spot getting out of parking spots here and in the Nissan Z with that view right there. But that's enough about interior and exterior. Let's actually hook the cameras up and take this one for a drive. Okay, I feel like I have to start this one off with a 0 to 60 run. We'll just see how it goes. Yeah, let's go. This does have launch control, but oh my goodness, those Bridgestone Potenzas are the weakest link of this entire vehicle. Like I said earlier, I'm not speaking from experience, but they are rather loosey-goosey when it comes to holding traction. This thing does like to step out the rear end in multiple different situations, and I've experienced that multiple times while driving this one around. Otherwise, I would say this is a pretty solid car, but I would contribute that lower 0 to 60 acceleration time of this compared to the Supra largely to those Bridgestone Potenzas. Makes me wonder what this car could do with some stickier Pilot Sport 4S's or something of the like. Because the other car that we are currently testing this week is a Toyota GR86. That does have Pilot Sport 4 tires. So very curious why we went with Bridgestone Potenzas here on this Nissan Z. And since we're talking comparisons to Supra, I will go ahead and note I have driven the 6-speed automatic. I have not pushed the 6-speed manual version of the Supra with the 3-liter 6. And we had, for a week's worth of testing, the 4-cylinder 2-liter version with an automatic. And if I'm going to pick between the two vehicles to live with daily, I'm picking this one. And some of you may be saying, well, you're just an idiot. Well, no, and let me explain myself. For one, this one is cheaper, and yes, kind of rightly so. This is an aging platform that Nissan has modified for modern day use, but as you can see, I'm having a lot of fun on this twisty back road here in East Texas, and this thing is staying fairly well planted to the ground. I can also say at speed, this thing, it feels absolutely solid. Aside from those Bridgestone Potenzas deciding to give up every once in a while on you, this really is a solid platform that didn't need too much work, at least for what I am putting this through. I'll put it on that caveat. I have not track tested this one, so I will say that. But living with this daily, this is a very well put together car, even if it is showing its age. Some of the materials in here feel very old, and you know what? A lot of this vehicle just feels very retro, and I'm not just talking about the styling, I'm talking about just the overall feeling and the character of it. That the Toyota Supra felt a little too new, too digital in its approach to life, whereas this definitely feels more analog. It feels more, I don't know, visceral. It feels like it has a soul and a character, and there is an Easter egg on the back window back there that says since 1969, and they are very proud of the heritage of this Z. This entire platform is really a love letter to the history of the Z. There are so many design cues from all the generations in this vehicle that they had to pay homage to it, and getting behind the wheel, it absolutely feels like an homage to the classic Zs of old. It doesn't feel overly digital. It doesn't feel too new or out of place. It has a lot of character. So there are a lot of flaws. I'm not going to deny it. When I first got this, I told multiple people I wouldn't buy this car. But the longer I've lived with it, the more fun I've had with it, the more I've come to appreciate it in spite of its flaws. I've never really understood car reviewers, car presenters throughout my youth talking about how they would pick a worse car because of its character. But in some respects, this is the worst car. The Toyota Supra definitely feels like a scalpel to a machete of this Nissan Z. But there's so much character, there's so much to love, that yes, I would 100% take this Z over the Supra. And to that end, it is a little cheaper as well. And that concludes my time here in the Nissan Z. So much to like, so much to love about this. There is stuff that did not make it into this review, like the fact that you can actually install a child safety seat with a top tether in this, which you can't do in a Toyota Supra. Another thing that this does that the Toyota Supra absolutely cannot, and I unfortunately cannot demonstrate right now because both the cameras are mounted to the windows, you can drop the windows without completely blowing out your eardrums, because the wind buffeting in here is not a problem with the windows up or down. Oh, there's that traction control. But you can see, yes, this thing will really scoot, and a 7,000 RPM red line is noted to you with your shift lights there above the tachometer. But yes, I recommend, from my experience in daily driving, if you're an amateur like me, leaving that traction control on, because those Bridgestone Potenzas will let go on you probably when you're not expecting it. Otherwise, my first upgrades to this would probably be tires, obviously, and the exhaust. This does have a sport exhaust on it, but it doesn't sound special by any means. The exhaust under load, the interior feeling during acceleration just doesn't quite nail it for me like the way I know previous Z models could and have. And sitting in idle in a parking lot, it almost sounds like a Nissan Altima up front. So the sound of this is not too special. So tires first, exhaust maybe third, and intake maybe second, just because of the price of it. And then you would have a real beast on your hands. And it makes me wonder how much of that is being saved by Nissan for a potential Nismo version. Who knows? If you want to read more about this and some details I was not able to get into this video properly because of mic issues and whatever the case may be, find us over at gtgaragetalk.com, or you can find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Everything is at GT Garage Talk. Absolutely be sure and subscribe, follow along on YouTube or on Facebook, because we do have that family review with Holly and Tucker both riding shotgun, not at the same time, in this vehicle to give you their opinions of it. But until next time, gearheads, bye.